What's up, guys? Sean here, and today we're going to talk about the strong women running for the presidency in the Democratic primary. Because they are so strong, so stunning, so brave, and so beautiful, and did I forget to mention, so strong, that they need our attention. So as many of you could already tell from looking at the backlog of my channel, presidential politics is not something that I typically make videos about. And the reason for that is that there's so much coverage of presidential politics, like the day-to-day minutia of presidential politics, that I don't really feel like I'm offering you guys anything new by talking about it. But I do follow presidential politics, I do find it interesting sometimes, and occasionally I like to make videos about it. However, the same cannot be said for presidential campaigns. Presidential campaigns are not interesting, they're not fun to follow, and the campaign season is way too long. The reason I'm making this video is because it's January of 2019, and we already have candidates who have declared their intention to run for the presidency. That's way too early. And due to the fact that these candidates have decided to extend the presidential campaign season, I think they deserve extra scrutiny and extra scorn. And that's why I'm making this video. First up is the senator from New York, my senator, Kirsten Gillibrand. Kirsten Gillibrand is somebody who's best known as the person who took Hillary Clinton's Senate seat when she became Secretary of State. She can be described very accurately as a Hillary Clinton who never married Bill Clinton. She has no charisma, almost nothing going for her in this presidential election, as she's out intersectionaled by other candidates in the race.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. continues to inspire us every single day because he believed in a set of values that transcends time and movements. He knew that only light can drive out darkness, and that we are all called to fight for others. Until now, until this person in the White House, until our president has chosen to tear this country apart on every line, every division, every racial line, every religious line. He chooses to divide us community by community. He has inspired a hate and a darkness in this country that I have never witnessed myself. He is tearing apart the very fabric of who we are as a nation, our very common decency. And that is what we are being called to fight against.
Gillibrand has no real shot at winning the nomination. There are multiple candidates that can out-progressive her, there are multiple candidates that can out-establishment her, and there are multiple candidates that can out-intersectionality her. No chance, completely pointless candidate. Thank you for playing. Goodbye, Hillary Clinton Jr. Next up is Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren actually used to be an interesting candidate. She has a similar progressive base of support that Bernie Sanders has. However, she burned a lot of that support when she decided not to run for president in 2016. For those of you who are unaware, there was a deep desire within the progressive base for somebody to rise up to challenge Hillary Clinton from the progressive wing of the party. Elizabeth Warren was initially the candidate that people wanted, and Bernie only decided to run because he saw that there were no other progressive candidates running against her. Had Elizabeth Warren ran in 2016, she would likely have Bernie's base of support going into 2020. However, she not only decided not to run in 2016, but she also refused to endorse Bernie Sanders. In fact, she played this weird middle ground game where she didn't endorse any candidate in the primary. And her unwillingness to endorse Bernie Sanders really hurt her credibility amongst that progressive base. Most of the progressive base viewed Elizabeth Warren as somebody with integrity. But when she refused to endorse Sanders and essentially bent to the whims of the Democratic Party, it was realized by the progressive base that she had 1/1024th the integrity that they thought. Now, maybe Warren could have benefited from being the progressive default if Bernie decided not to run again. Maybe she could have earned back some of that trust. But it's clear that Bernie Sanders is running again, and there's no possible way that Warren is going to be able to pry enough support from Bernie Sanders in order to secure herself a primary victory. And there's nowhere else for Warren to make up that support. She gets out intersectional by other candidates in the race, and the fact that she lied so publicly about being a Native American is not going to gain her any love over there. She also has less charisma than Hillary Clinton, and obvious pandering stunts like this are not going to gain her any support.
I'm going to get me a beer. Hey, Robert, my husband Bruce is now in here. You want a beer?
No, I'll pass on the beer for now.
You sure?
Thank
Well, then say hello to folks.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
this is my sweetie.
Hello.
And I'm crazy.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, enjoy your beer.
Hello, people. My girlfriend, who's off camera now and didn't realize that I was going to be recording a video, is going to come into frame, stand right around here, and bring me a beer, so you know I'm just like you. What's that? You're not going to do that? You're saying that I've already established myself as a YouTuber and I shouldn't be trying to emulate a 29-year-old congresswoman and I should have some self-respect? And that people are going to totally look at that part of the video and assume it's the fakest thing that they've ever seen? Oh. Okay, you don't have to come into frame then. I'll just cut this out of the video. Not a big deal. You know, there's actually two things about that Instagram live stream that are really pathetic. The first is obvious. Obviously, she's trying to emulate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the congresswoman that we hear way too much about in the media. But the second one is a little bit more subtle, and you might have to be a little bit more politically savvy to pick up on it. So the reason that Elizabeth Warren grabbed a beer in the middle of that Instagram live stream and started drinking it is the same reason that Barack Obama was photographed over and over and over again drinking beer while he was president. That's because while Barack Obama was president, there was actually a poll saying that independent voters prefer beer drinkers. So that Instagram live stream that Elizabeth Warren did was so awkward because it had multiple levels of pandering in it. And finally, we have Kamala Harris. And of all the Democratic hopefuls so far, on paper, Kamala has the best chance. She's going to have huge support from the Democratic establishment. She's also a black woman, which checks 2 boxes in the intersectionality chart. And black voters are particularly important in Democratic primaries, especially early Democratic primaries. A lot of people tend to focus on all the behind-the-scenes stuff that the Hillary Clinton campaign did in order to cheat Bernie out of the nomination. But what a lot of people tend to look over is that black voters, especially in those early primary states, killed Bernie Sanders. If black voters didn't overwhelmingly support Hillary Clinton in key primary states like South Carolina and Georgia, she might have not had a wide enough lead to be able to cheat Bernie Sanders. The fact is, black voters are really important in Democratic primaries, and they're actually a moderating influence on Democratic primaries. So Kamala Harris playing the role of that moderate, that stand-in for Hillary Clinton, along with the fact that she is herself African American, on paper should really help her secure those votes. This is why you're seeing a lot of progressives bring up Kamala Harris's record as the Attorney General and as the District Attorney for San Francisco.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco.
The assumption amongst everyone in Democratic circles is that Kamala Harris already has those voters, and they have to start prying them away now, otherwise she's just going to overwhelm them. Now that's the presumption, however, I don't think that will prove to be true ultimately. Kamala Harris is essentially the Marco Rubio for the Democratic side. Everybody in the establishment thinks she's way more popular than she actually is, but her lack of charisma and her checkered past are going to haunt her once you get into the heat of the primary season.
And we are here at this moment in time because we must answer a fundamental question. Who are we? Who are we as Americans? So let's answer that question.
Kamala Harris is essentially Hillary Clinton if at the time she met Bill, he was already married. She started her career having an affair with a married man that was almost twice her age. He admitted in an op-ed that he gave her 2 jobs. Now, the media is not going to really press her on this as long as she's the presumptive nominee, But as soon as it starts getting brought up in the primaries, as soon as somebody tries to take her down with it, I actually think that will be an effective line of attack. Because let's be perfectly honest, other than exactly what it looks like, there is no good explanation for what occurred between Kamala Harris and Brown. People are tired of these politicians that obviously are saying and doing everything they can to gain power. She has no honesty. She has no authenticity. She is going to flame out much in the same way that Marco Rubio did when he was the presumptive nominee before the voting started. And even if Democrats decide not to attack her based on that, there's nothing to stop somebody from putting it in a super PAC ad. And if she does get the nominee, Donald Trump will throw it in her face during every primary debate. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. That's pretty much it for the cringy female candidates for the Democratic side. I may do a video later on the other candidates, but they all announced in January, and I find that uniquely annoying. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can support me by donating one time via PayPal, through Patreon, or Subscribestar, which is back now. This has been me talking about the Democratic candidates. Till next time.